Chapter 11. Into the Desert. Saul just got into Damascus after his transformation, his shift, for some, a conversion. He's blind. Jacob, one of his servants, is with him. Well, first question that was asked to him, "Where are we going, sir?" He doesn't have much money, he says. Well, he reminds himself that one of his best friends are in town. He actually lives there. Zadok. The very same Zadok that in chapter 4 Emmanuel introduced to us when he was talking to Saul about the followers of Christ. He was the very same Zadok that visited the house of the way for the first time when Saul first saw Stephen. The very same Zadok. How is he going to receive the news that Saul saw Jesus and is now willing to follow him? Well, pretty much he says to Jacob, "Jacob, tell Saul that I'm not at home." Saul was hurt. He thought, I thought he was my most loyal friend. But then he already understood, probably if I were in his shoes, I would have done the same. So then what to do? Well, he got to a very simple, humble inn, the Judas Inn. That's the name of the inn. And he said to his servant, "Jacob, don't worry. You can leave. I'll be fine." He was there blind, totally blind. And then Emmanuel describes that for 3 days, he was in true spiritual discipline. He was there reviving the thoughts of his life, revisiting all of them, reminiscing everything, and most of all, he was going through this journey of transformation. This is where we pause for a moment to talk about this shift. Some people think that one day, at this quantum moment, they will shift their lives and everything is going to be changed. The next moment is going to be wonderful. Emmanuel tells us the next moment is a dry land. It's the desert within ourselves. Why? We may ask, why? Because transformation is a process. The shift is just the first step. Now we are talking about transformation as a process in which once we realize it, the next step is a journey of inner transformation. It's not something that happens and goes away quickly. And we learn with Saul that he was then the first moments examining the errors of the past, the difficulties of the present, and the undertakings of his future. This is a teaching for us, because with Saul, we get to know that when we want to change our lives, things will be beautiful, but still, we will need to examine the errors of the past, the difficulties of the present, naturally. Sometimes we want to change and we want everyone to accept us and say, "Oh, you're a transformed person." Well, we can't expect anything from anybody. Sometimes people will be just like Zadok. Like, what? You changed? You don't know. You're out of your mind. You don't know what you're talking about. And then, are we to be upset? Or to be like Saul? You know what? Zadok is probably right. If I were thinking just like him, I would have done the same. So, inevitably, it's a very inner journey. It's something that others will not partake immediately. But the Spirit guides. They will always be by your side. And then in this journey, we get to know, we learn that we're never alone. How do we know it? Because after 3 days, Jesus sent Ananias. Ananias is an example for us of true trust in the divine, because he could be afraid of helping Saul, but he didn't. He was very faithful. And he went there and got rid of his blindness. And Emmanuel says, his scales fell from Saul's pain-filled eyelids, and he could see again. A very strong message to us. Other people will help us see again. So in our shift, we need to count on one another, on each other. We never do this transformation. We never walk this transformative process by ourselves and alone. We always have help. We just need to trust. And who should we trust? The very people that are in our lives. If he were to say, no, you are not the person to help me. When Ananias knocked at his door, the door of his room in Judas Inn, and if he refused it, he wouldn't be into the next step of his transformation. And then, after exchanging ideas, he learns beautiful lessons. He is excited again about life. He is full of hope. He wants to spread the good news. But then, the more experienced Ananias says, wait. And he teaches us a lesson. He says, when you have suffered more, you will have improved your understanding of people and things. Only pain teaches us to be human. Then we get to know that we also need to bless the experiences when we are suffering. Not that we'll look for sufferings to impose on ourselves, but basically, Saul was there. He tried to go to the synagogue in Damascus. He was, just rejected naturally. He says, my old man was crushed. How often soon after we want to change, the people who we used to be among with, they reject the new us. And then the old man inside of us refuses to accept that rejection. But then Saul, he needed to decide between vanity and renunciation. And once we truly understand Jesus' message, we give in to renunciation. And vanity will gradually vanishes from our lives. And then one more thing as a lesson we get to know in this chapter, that in this transformative process, we need to dive deeper. And Ananias says, Saul, retreat yourself. Delve within these teachings. Learn more about themselves and yourself. And then he gets this inspiration about Gamaliel. Gamaliel, his former mentor, probably got to know Jesus' teachings too. He was in the desert. I'm going to meet him. So in this journey, there is a transformation, but a transformation that is not a lonely one. God, in His mercy, will always send others to give us a hand and guide us in this step. All we need to do is to allow it to happen. Now, let us take a pen and a piece of paper and try to outline the people in your life that can partake into your transformative process, and try to extrapolate from each one of them what they can actually teach you. And once you do it, let us identify if we had already passed and when we will pass the dry lands of the first steps of our transformation. Let us prepare for chapter 12.